Have you ever looked at your title and thought, and I should be happy? You have done things, you have reached the milestones, you have cared for people, you have built something that looks good from the outside. And yet, somewhere inside, there is this quiet question: why does it still feel like something is missing? And today I want to talk about that emptiness that can appear even when nothing is visibly wrong, Not because you're ungrateful, not because life is bad, and not because you failed, but because maybe somewhere along the way you became so good at following the path that was not even yours that you stopped listening to yourself. And please type hashtag live if you're listening and watching this live, or hashtag replay if you're watching the replay of this video. And I'm curious. Please type in the comment hashtag yes if you know what I'm talking about and how does that feel. So today I'm going to talk about the 3 points mainly. And the first one is that you can check every box and still feel disconnected. Success on paper does not always mean alignment inside. And that I had to learn. So for a long time, I believed that peace, fulfillment were somewhere ahead of me, after the next goal, after the next milestone, after I have done enough or proved enough or built enough, and I did many of the things that I thought I was supposed to do, like diploma, like apartment, buying one, of course, and like getting a master degree, having a good job, having children, having responsibility, have a marriage, have a respect. It was like tick, 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 ticking the boxes. And from the outside, it made sense, totally. But inside, I was not fully present for the life I had created. I was still functioning, I was achieving, I was making it work. But I was also slowly disappearing from myself. And this is what is so difficult to explain to people, because there's nothing obviously wrong. There's no dramatic crisis. There is no collapse. And because life's good, you started judging yourself for not feeling, better inside, not feeling okay, actually. And and gratitude and emptiness can exist in the same body, You can be grateful for your children, your home, your work, your life, and still feel that something in you has gone quiet. And please write checked if you have ever felt like you checked the boxes but still did not feel fully alive. And the second point I want to talk about is that living from the outside in makes you lose your inner voice. And that's actually what I was experiencing in that moment. The more we live by what is expected, and the harder it becomes to know what is true for us. And most of us do not lose ourselves in some big moment, We lose ourselves slowly, Like through the shoots, through the expectations, through being praised for being good, responsible, capable, strong, useful. And none of this is necessarily meant to harm us, but little by little, we learn what gets approval. We learn what makes us acceptable and what makes us safe and what makes people proud. We learn that through our environment, our education, from our parents watching them. And we start building our life around that. Like be a good student, get a degree, get a great job, build a home, have a family, and hold it together. And if you're capable, you can do it very well. And that's the tricky part, actually. You can succeed at a life that is slowly disconnecting you from yourself. And I lost my father very early in life, and I was bullied in school. And those experiences shaped me. They made me go inward, and they made me listen deeply to myself. And as a child and as a teenager, I had a strong sense of who I wanted to be. But later, um, life has become heavier, more responsible, more full, and I started following the script instead of listening to my inner compass. And I did not lose myself because I was weak, but because I was capable of reaching all that. And I thought that's the right path, right? So the third point is that the emptiness, it's not a failure actually. It can be the beginning of remembering. The cracks are not proof that something is wrong with you. They might be a sign that something true is trying to come back. And it was that in my case, that was true in my case. And there's a story I want to share with you today, and it's a story about the Golden Buddha. You see, like 100 years ago, there was a beautiful statue of a Buddha. And during a time of war, monks covered that statue with clay and stucco to protect it from being stolen, because it was like a golden one, and they didn't want others to see that. And for generation, people thought it was like just an ordinary statue. Then in the 1960s, the statue was being removed. They wanted to move it from one temple to another. And when they tried to do that, the ropes, they were torn, and the statue fell to the floor. And then it cracked. And underneath the clay and stucco, there was and this was like a dual outer layer. They discovered gold. And the gold has always been there. It was just hidden. And I think many of us are like that, under the layers of expectations, responsibility, pressure, proving, pleasing, performing, there is something true. There is still inner wisdom, there is still aliveness, and there is still your inner voice. The discomfort you feel may not mean your life is wrong. It may just mean you are ready to stop abandoning yourself inside of it, inside of your life. So the crack is not the end. The crack is where you finally see the gold again. So come and gold if you feel there is a part of you that is ready to be remembered again. Okay, so before I close for today, I want you to leave with this one question. When or what part of yourself have you been postponing? Not because you do not care, not because you are lazy, not because you failed, but because you are busy being responsible, busy being capable, busy, building the life that made sense to everyone else, or maybe someone else, or even maybe you a while ago, but it does not anymore. And maybe now something is in you is ready to come alive again. And if this felt familiar, I have two places where you can start. The first one is my free workbook, The Reason You Feel Not Enough. And it is for the part of you that keeps proving, carrying, achieving, and still wondering why it does not feel like enough. And the second one is my $7 course, Release the Fear of Judgment and Shame. And that one is for you. If you feel like you are constantly measuring yourself through others people's expectations or just others people's eyes, and you want to feel safer being yourself again, I'll put both links in the comments below. And if this kind of conversations supports you, subscribe because I'm going live for the next 30 days and I will keep talking about confidence, self trust, emotional safety, overthinking, exhaustion, and how to come home to yourself. So for today, remember this: you're not empty because you failed. Maybe you feel empty because your real self is asking to be heard again. So thank you for being here today and come home to yourself.